Night fell slowly over the vast forests of West Africa. Torches flickered along towering red earth walls that stretched farther than the eye could see. Inside those walls stood a city, unlike any in the world at the time, a city of grand courtyards, sacred altars, and palaces covered in intricate bronze plaques. Traders moved through wide, carefully planned streets. Priests performed ancient rituals. Warriors guarded the gates. And at the center of it all sat a powerful ruler whose authority was considered almost divine. This was the Benin Empire, one of the most sophisticated and powerful civilizations in Africa, long before European colonization arrived. Yet for centuries, its true story remained hidden beneath myths and misunderstandings. Long before European ships appeared along the coast of West Africa, the Benin Empire had already grown into a thriving political and cultural powerhouse. Located in what is now Nigeria, the empire was centered around the magnificent city of Benin City. Its origins stretched back more than 1,000 years, when local communities gradually united. Under powerful kings known as Obas, the Oba was not just a political leader, he was seen as a sacred figure whose authority connected the living to the ancestors and the spiritual world. His palace dominated the center of the city, a massive complex filled with courtyards, shrines, and halls decorated with astonishing works of art. Among the most famous were the intricate Benin bronzes, metal plaques, statues, and carvings that told stories of kings, warriors, rituals, and victories. European visitors who arrived centuries later were stunned by what they saw. The streets of Benin City were wide and remarkably well organized. Houses were ranged in long, straight lines. Enormous defensive walls surrounded the city, forming what some historians believe may have been one of the largest earthworks ever built before the modern era. Trade flowed constantly through the empire. Merchants carried ivory, pepper, palm oil, cloth, and finely crafted artworks across regional trade networks. When Portuguese traders first arrived along the West African coast in the late 1400s, they encountered a kingdom that was already wealthy, structured, and powerful. The Oba controlled commerce carefully, ensuring that foreign traders operated under strict royal oversight. One of the most powerful rulers in the empire's history was Oba the Great, who reigned in the 15th century. Under his leadership, the kingdom transformed dramatically. He reorganized the government, strengthened the military, and expanded the empire's territory far beyond its original borders. But perhaps his most enduring achievement was the transformation of Benin City itself. Massive moats and walls were constructed, stretching for hundreds of kilometers across the surrounding region. These earthworks protected farmland, villages, and trade routes that fed the growing power of the empire. Inside the capital, the royal palace expanded into an enormous complex. Skilled craftsmen were brought together in guilds, each responsible for producing specific works for the royal court. Some specialized in ivory carvings, others in brass casting. Their masterpieces would eventually become the legendary Benin bronzes, now considered some of the greatest artistic achievements in African history. These works were not simply decorations. Each plaque and sculpture served as a historical record. They documented royal ceremonies, military triumphs, and the authority of the Oba. Through art, the empire preserved its story, But the strength of the Benin Empire was not built on culture alone. It was sustained by a powerful and disciplined system of governance. The Oba ruled with the support of a complex council of chiefs and advisors. Different groups held authority over military affairs, trade administration, religious ceremonies, and regional governance. This structured hierarchy allowed the empire to manage large territories and maintain stability across many communities. The military was equally formidable, highly organized and loyal to the crown. Benin's warriors defended trade routes and protected the kingdom from rival states. Their reputation alone often discouraged enemies from attempting invasion for centuries. This balance of power allowed the empire to flourish. The forests surrounding Benin City echoed with the sounds of industry metal being cast, ivory being carved, cloth being woven. Ritual festivals filled the calendar, celebrating the connection between the Oba, the people, and the ancestors who were believed to guide the empire's destiny. When Europeans finally established more permanent contact along the West African coast, they encountered a civilization far more advanced than many had expected. Portuguese merchants established diplomatic relations with the Oba in the late 15th century, exchanging gifts and establishing trade agreements. Unlike many regions that would later fall quickly under colonial domination, the Benin Empire remained fiercely independent for centuries. The Obas carefully controlled foreign influence, allowing trade but resisting attempts to interfere in the kingdom's internal affairs. European visitors often wrote detailed accounts of what they witnessed. They described a city larger and more organized than many cities in Europe at the time. They marveled at the craftsmanship of the royal court and the discipline of the kingdom's administration. For generations, the empire maintained this powerful position, balancing diplomacy, trade, and military strength to preserve its sovereignty. But history rarely stands still. By the 19th century, European powers had begun competing aggressively for control of African territories. Industrial expansion in Europe created a growing demand for resources, markets, and political dominance. The balance that had protected the Benin Empire for centuries was beginning to shift. Tensions with the British Empire gradually intensified as British officials pushed for greater control over trade in the region. The Oba resisted these pressures, determined to protect the independence of his kingdom. The situation would eventually lead to a dramatic and tragic confrontation known as the Benin Expedition of 1897. When British forces invaded Benin City, burned large parts of the city, and looted thousands of priceless artifacts from the royal palace. Many of those treasures, including the famous Benin bronzes, were taken to museums across Europe, where they remain subjects of international debate and efforts for repatriation even today. Yet the story of the Benin Empire is far more than its final confrontation with colonial power. For centuries before that moment, it stood as a symbol of African ingenuity, political sophistication, and artistic brilliance. Its massive earthworks reshaped the landscape. Its rulers governed a powerful state. Its craftsmen created artworks that continue to astonish the world hundreds of years later. And perhaps most importantly, its legacy reminds us that long before the colonial era reshaped the continent, Africa was home to complex civilizations whose histories deserve to be told in full. History is filled with powerful stories, like these stories of empires that rose, thrived, and shaped the course of human civilization in ways many people are only beginning to rediscover. If you want to uncover more forgotten empires, powerful rulers, and untold moments that changed the world, subscribe to the channel and join the journey through history.